All right, students. So today we're going to talk about the different types of, the weather systems which affect the Caribbean. Now, I know I give you six weather systems starting from trade winds. We also have the ITCZ, which is in fact the Intertropical Convergence Zone. We also have tropical waves. All right, we have hurricanes. All right, anticyclones and cold fronts and stuff like that. But I'm going to focus primarily upon the first four. All right. Now, in terms of understanding these things, the first things first, before we even talk about trade winds, let us talk about the Earth's rotation. All right, and this diagram, this image of the Earth here, the Earth spins technically in an anti-clockwise direction, which is from west to east, right? Like that. Okay. Now, students, the Earth spins in an anti-clockwise direction. However, the winds tend to be coming from the east to the west. So the Earth spins anti-clockwise, like I showed you just now, like from left to right. Strange enough, the Earth winds basically actually blow from right to left. All right, from the Africas straight across to the Americas. Now that is what you call the deflection of winds. All right, not reflection, deflection. All right, and students, that the whole concept of that is what you call the Coriolis effect. The Coriolis effect, Coriolis, all right, the Coriolis effect is in fact that particular term which simply focuses upon the deflection of winds influenced by the rotation of the Earth. So the Earth rotates anti-clockwise, however, the winds blow clockwise. The Earth rotates from west to east, yet the winds blow from right to left, which is from east to west, which is from Africa towards the Americas. Now, students, in terms of understanding the trade winds, we must appreciate the fact that there is, in fact, a trade wind belt. All right. And that trade wind belt is essentially between 5 to an estimated 30 degrees north and 5 to an estimated 30 degrees south of the equator. All right. All right, students. So what we have here, we have two types of trade winds. We have the northeast trade winds and we have the southeast trade winds. Look at this here quickly. The northeast trade winds exist, the belt exists between 5 and 30 degrees north, and it actually comes from the northeast, and it makes a somewhat of a clockwise direction. All right, it blows that way. The same thing applies to the southeast trade winds, which is between 5 degrees south and 30 degrees south, and it comes from the southeast and it blows somewhat in a clockwise direction towards the equatorial region and above. All right. Now, the trade winds are influenced by the rotation of the Earth. The Earth rotates anti-clockwise, but these trade winds blow in a clockwise direction generally. All right. That being said, let us focus upon another part of it, which is in fact the ITCZ. Now, students, the ITCZ is in fact a term which refers to the Intertropical Convergence Zone. It is essentially, all right, that particular part where the northeast trade winds converge with the southeast trade winds. When that happens, it creates a narrow band, all right, of low atmospheric pressure. Now, the ITCZ marks the start of the wet season. The presence of the ITCZ marks the start of the wet season, which in Trinidad exists between May to November. Okay. Now, students, the ITCZ or the Intertropical Convergence Zone, what converges? The two trade winds, northeast trade winds and the southeast trade winds. And this actually creates a low atmospheric pressure system. All right, so what we have here, this narrow band, all right, is actually the antioxidant characteristics associated with it. Number one, we have dense cloud cover. All right. Number two, we have significant amount of rainfall. Number three, we have gusty to gale force winds. We have high humidity. Good. We also have thunderstorm conditions, especially if the system becomes very, very unstable. All right. This is a major powerhouse in terms of energy transfer in the world, which is very, very important. All right. Now, With respect to the ITCZ, we have a lot of low atmospheric pressure systems which are in fact generated. One of which is the tropical wave. We also have hurricanes which can be propagated from it as well, depressions and stuff like that. Now the ITCZ brings with it significant severe weather conditions. As you can see in the bottom left, we can see we have rainfall there. On the bottom right, we can see we have strong winds. Right left hand corner, we see there's also flooding conditions from an aerial view and whatnot. Now, with respect to the tropical wave, right? Now, last Saturday we had a lot of rain, all right, which is I think Saturday was the 5th of June, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of rain to be specific. And what is a tropical wave? Now, students, a tropical wave is in fact a low atmospheric pressure system, which basically originates off the coast of Africa, all right, off the western coast of Africa, and basically blows across the Atlantic Ocean, all right, towards the Americas and towards the Caribbean. Now, students, bear in mind something. Dry air, this is in fact what you call the Sahara Desert, here is Sahara. Dry air from the continent of Africa, which is said to be unsaturated air, it blows over the Atlantic Ocean following a trade wind pattern. And as it blows over the oceans, right, these winds blow over the ocean, it picks up moisture. And as it picks up moisture, the air becomes saturated. As the air becomes saturated, the atmospheric pressure lowers, it diminishes. And that contributes to instability in the atmosphere, which give rise to like depression, like condition disturbances. Characteristics associated with that is associated with a high, significant amount of rainfall, dense cloud cover, low atmospheric pressure, gusty to gale force winds potentially, but not really gale force per se, but gusty winds, like strong winds. All right. Okay, and this can actually contribute to flooding conditions as well. Yes, so this is Trinidad right here, just at 10 degrees north latitude, and we know fully well we experience that very often. Once we are in the rainy season right now, we are in the month of June, and this is in fact the wet season, and we have to expect a lot of tropical waves. Now, students, tropical waves can in fact manifest into tropical depressions, right? Where you have wind speeds often less than 65 kilometers per hour. And tropical depressions, once there is ambient warmth in the surrounding waters, can escalate into tropical storms, which basically have wind speeds which are somewhat gusty to gale force, ranging between 65 kilometers per hour to an estimated 119 kilometers per hour, 119. The moment a tropical storm intensifies with wind speed exceeding 119 kilometers per hour, it becomes a full-blown tropical hurricane. So students, remember the term hurricane is attributed to the Americas, as in terms of the Atlantic Ocean. Hurricanes, cyclones, typhoons, they are all different names which are associated with large-scale, low atmospheric pressure systems, right? But the term typhoons are in fact associated more with the Pacific, right? The largest body of water in the world. And the cyclones are essentially associated with the Indian Ocean and also certain parts of the Pacific as well. So it's the same thing, except that typhoons are much more destructive, primarily because they exist in the largest ocean, which will harbor the majority amount of warmth. All right, they all exist and they originate within the tropics. Now, hurricanes per se, as you can see fully well, they will bring about very significant amount of weather, all right, bad weather conditions. As you can see, the eye of the hurricane is in fact the calm, a very distinctive eye. Surrounding that, you have what you call cumulonimbus clouds, which are like anvil shaped, very, very widespread clouds, right? We have great updrafts associated with rising body of warm air. However, in the eye, you have descending cool air masses, but just surrounding the eye, which is this whole outside area here, you have a great body of rising warm air masses, which will create a lot of thunderstorm conditions, instability in the atmosphere, and whatnot. Now, class, pay attention to this. This is a more intricate diagram. All right. The oceans, which are basically a large body of warm air, which will facilitate the great updrafts, will contribute to very distinctive weather. So, what are the characteristics associated with hurricanes? gale force winds, powerful winds, thunderstorm conditions, even at the sides surrounding the eye. Not in the eye. The eye is the piece, the moment of calm where cool air descends, where it's just somewhat stable. But surrounding the eye, which is all on this side as well as on this side, you have great rising bodies of warm air mass, which will create a lot of instability in the atmosphere. Students, bear in mind, the system essentially circulates in an anti-clockwise direction. All right, anti-clockwise. This image here shows the anti-clockwise direction of the entire wind pattern, but the system moves generally in a northwesterly direction. All right, the system moves northwesterly. This is in fact Florida, which is in the southwestern corner of this particular image. We have Cuba, which is south of that. Look at the size of this system. This whole weather system can actually encompass an area more than 600 to even 1,000 square kilometers, which is a very large area as a matter of fact. All right, wind speeds exceed 120 kilometers, which are very significantly strong winds, and they are very, very powerful winds as a matter of fact. All right, class, bear in mind from a satellite view, which is an aerial view, you can see there is a very distinctive eye in the center here. Hurricanes have a very distinctive eye. Surrounding the eye, you have a very destructive force. Just bear in mind also, the moment hurricane makes contact with land, it will create destruction, yes, but it will eventually lose momentum and the energy dissipates. All right, okay. Class, what are in fact some characteristics of hurricanes? Some of the most significant characteristics of hurricanes are the strong winds, the low atmospheric pressure, the torrential rainfall, the instability associated with the atmosphere, very unstable atmospheric conditions. What are the effects of hurricanes? I didn't have any imagery here right now, but we can see that we can know for sure that there are in fact major effects of hurricanes. The most significant being loss of lives, both humans and animals. We have loss of communication because of fallen light poles and whatnot, given the strong winds. We also have loss of electricity. All right, we have damage to infrastructure. We have coastal flooding. We have inland flooding. We have damage to agriculture. Well, I mentioned agricultural productivity, which is affected before. All right, we have storm surges, which are very powerful waves sweeping into land consistently, given the strong passage of the winds. All right, all of these things are very, very unique. We have a lot of economic costs as well. As a matter of fact, Hurricane Katrina, and I believe Hurricane Andrew in the US was responsible for creating over $1 billion worth of infrastructural damage. Even Hurricane Irma, right, which affected the Caribbean a couple of years ago, I believe it's 2017 if I'm not mistaken. All right, that resulted in a lot of damage in areas such as Puerto Rico, Antigua and Barbuda, certain parts of Haiti, well, Hispaniola generally, Haiti and Dominican Republic. All right, we thankfully Trinidad and Tobago is situated at the 10 degrees north latitude, which is just at the start of the hurricane belt. We didn't experience a hurricane disastrous effect. However, we experienced the effects of the surrounding atmospheric conditions, the bad weather and whatnot. At that time, class, just remember that particular year, we didn't have any school for a week, given the bad level of flooding which we experienced right here, although we did not experience the full brunt of the hurricane per se. All right, so these are in fact the four main weather systems which affect the Caribbean. All right, those mentioned specifically referring to trade winds. We have the ITCZ, we have the tropical waves, and we also have hurricanes. There are in fact two which I didn't mention, which are in fact cold fronts as well as anticyclones. I will send those videos for you all in the classwork so you can actually peruse it. All right, students, you all keep safe, right? Have a good one.